Ethan Cole had everything most men only dreamed of. His surname crowned the tops of skyscrapers, etched in gleaming steel for the world to see. Garages overflowed with sleek, exotic cars, while private jets lingered on standby at his command. Wherever he stepped, applause seemed to echo. Every word he uttered drew reverence. Phones buzzed endlessly with opportunities and business proposals that could shape entire industries. If wealth could be embodied in a person, Ethan was its finest statue. Yet beneath the brilliance of that empire, Ethan felt the shadows creep in. Nights in his sprawling mansion were eerily quiet, the silence amplifying the hollowness inside him. His riches attracted admiration, but never sincerity. Women glided into his life, captivated not by his heart but by the sheen of his bank account. Their laughter came too quickly, their compliments too rehearsed, their affection vanishing whenever his wallet stayed shut. The chandeliers blazed above imported marble floors, but within him all light was dim. Every evening, sprawled on silk sheets, he asked himself the same tormenting question. Would anyone ever love me for who I am, not what I possess? He had dated models, attorneys, and socialites, yet the pattern repeated. They admired the luxury more than the man. Even when his humor fell flat, they forced laughter to preserve their access to privilege. Then Clara appeared, sharp-witted, graceful, seemingly authentic. For the first time in years, Ethan felt the stirrings of something genuine. He pictured forever with her, offered her his heart, and even slid a ring onto her finger. But that fragile hope shattered one early morning when he discovered Clara locked in an embrace with his chief financial officer. Ethan said nothing. He merely turned, left the scene, and dissolved the engagement. The CFO was dismissed. Clara was erased from his world. Afterward, Ethan withdrew. Rumors whispered he had fled abroad, but in reality, he remained cloistered in his estate, drowning in thought. The empire he had built felt meaningless. His days blurred, his mind restless with doubt. On a stormy night, as thunder growled against the mansion's tall windows, he decided to rewrite his story. He dialed Clara's replacement, his loyal assistant, Nora. "Find me worn trousers, a tattered shirt, and old slippers," he instructed. Confused, she hesitated. "Sir." Ethan's voice was steady. "No labels. No watches. No car. I want the world to see a man who has nothing." After a pause, she agreed. Thus began Ethan's secret descent from the heights of privilege into obscurity. He let his beard grow wild, abandoned suits for frayed shirts, and wore sandals that threatened to fall apart. His buzzing phone went quiet. His entourage scattered. Before sunrise, he slipped out of the mansion with only a small bag, leaving the staff to assume he had flown to London. Not even his parents, absorbed in overseas ventures, suspected his disappearance. In a crumbling section of the city, Ethan rented a small room in a weathered building. Its walls cracked, its mattress threadbare, and its curtains absent. But for him, it was perfect. It was real. Each day, he blended into crowds of laborious, pushing wheelbarrows, scrubbing cars, hauling timber on construction sites. His wages came in wrinkled bills, folded carefully into his jeans. For the first time, he felt invisible, liberated. At night, seated on his sagging bed, he stared at an old calendar pinned crookedly to the wall. No one saw Ethan Cole, the billionaire. They saw only another man fighting to survive. For him, the anonymity was freedom. And though Clara did not fully understand his strange mission, she obeyed. She even crafted profiles for him on dating sites, introducing him as a man who once had wealth but lost it all, now struggling to rebuild. Each woman who met him would be meeting the truest version of Ethan. The experiment began on a humid Thursday evening. Ethan, dressed in faded jeans and a dusty shirt, waited at a roadside grill, the air thick with spice and roasted meat. The sky blushed orange at dusk as he sat quietly on a plastic chair. Then she arrived. Vanessa. With her pink dress clinging tight, high heels clicking loudly, and long artificial nails shimmering, she strutted into view. But when her gaze fell on him, her nose wrinkled in disdain. "You're the one?" she asked sharply. Ethan gave a calm, genuine smile. "Yes. Thank you for coming." Vanessa lowered herself onto the chair reluctantly, her eyes darting around with visible discomfort. "You actually brought me here. To this place." She gestured to the modest setting. "It's quiet. The food is good," Ethan replied. Her laugh was sharp and mocking. "I can't do this." Snatching her purse, she stood. "Next time, try looking like a human being instead of someone who sleeps in the gutters." With that, she stormed away before the waiter even arrived. Ethan stayed behind, watching the sun sink below the horizon. He paid quietly, then walked back alone, his hope dimming yet again. The failure of that first date did not discourage Ethan completely, though it cut him deeper than he admitted. He told himself one rejection meant little. Clara continued to arrange more meetings, hoping one of them would break through his loneliness. The second attempt arrived in the form of Diane, a no-nonsense lawyer whose sharp gaze seemed to pierce through every word Ethan uttered. They met in a pepper soup joint where steam curled upward from steel bowls, fogging the air with spice. Diane wasted no time with pleasantries. "You said you do manual work?" she asked, pen poised over a tiny notepad. "Yes," Ethan replied evenly. "What kind? Daily or weekly pay?" "It depends on the job." She scribbled rapidly. "And your living arrangements? Ever married? Do you have siblings? Parents? Your schooling? Your surname again?" Her questions fell like an interrogation, cold and transactional. She never touched her food, never met his eyes. Ethan recognized what was happening. She wasn't on a date, she was conducting an assessment. In her mind, he was a potential investment, not a person. When the meal arrived, she stood abruptly, muttered, "I'll call you," and left. She never did. Still, Ethan held on to the experiment. The third woman, Emily, seemed at first to be a breath of fresh air. Gentle, soft-spoken, she wore her hardships openly, sharing tales of her difficult childhood with quiet resilience. She praised his endurance, saying, "I admire men who fight on despite the odds. I know what suffering is." They walked together for hours beneath the moonlight, and when Ethan felt her hand slip into his heart leaped with fragile hope. Maybe, just maybe, she was different. But the following morning shattered that illusion. His phone buzzed with a message. "Hey, love. I don't like to ask, but I'm in a rough spot. My rent expired, no food at home. Could you help me? Just a little?" Ethan read it twice, his heart sinking with each word. Another test. Another disappointment. Her smile had been calculated, her tenderness another mask. By that evening, he sat outside his cramped room, staring at the moonlight that painted silver across cracked concrete. The sounds of distant dogs filled the night, but inside him there was only silence. He whispered to himself, "Has the world forgotten how to love?" The next morning, drained and weary, Ethan phoned Clara. His voice carried defeat. "I'm done." She sounded startled. "Sir, I've walked the streets. I've eaten from plastic plates. Every smile has been fake. Every question comes with an agenda. Nobody is real." Clara was quiet for a long moment. Then, softly, she said, "Good people still exist. I married one." Ethan blinked. "You never mentioned your husband." "We met when we had nothing. 10 years later, we're still standing. Love can exist, but only if you're willing to strip everything away." He scoffed bitterly. "Do you truly believe someone can love a man who has absolutely nothing?" "Yes," Clara replied firmly. "But only if that man becomes nothing for real." Her words lodged deep in him. His eyes sharpened, mind racing. "Then let's take it further," he said. Clara hesitated. "What do you mean?" "I won't just act like a struggling worker. I'll erase every shred of identity. I want to know if anyone can love a man who appears to have nothing left at all." His voice dropped. "I'll become a beggar." Clara exhaled slowly, her loyalty outweighing her hesitation. "If that's what you want, I'll help." The next day she brought a bag. Inside were ragged clothes, sandals that looked older than decades, and a frayed hoodie. Ethan dressed in them and looked in the mirror. The reflection was unrecognizable. A hollow-eyed stranger stared back, draped in dust and defeat. Clara straightened his collar and whispered, "Don't speak unless you must. Just watch." He nodded, then quietly unfolded a check he had kept in a metal box. 50,000 written out, signed. "I'll give this," he said solemnly, "to the first woman who shows me genuine kindness. Not out of pity. Not for clout. Just kindness." Clara's throat tightened. "Good luck." Ethan stepped into the streets like a ghost. At bus stops, near market stalls, outside small shops, he sat wordlessly. His hoodie sagged, his sandals barely clung to his feet. His beard tangled, his hair unkempt, his eyes wary. Most people ignored him, treating him as invisible. Some tossed coins without looking. Others laughed cruelly. A few recorded him for amusement. One woman tossed stale bread at him as if feeding a stray dog. Another paused, smiled sweetly, and said, "You look like you've suffered." For a moment, Hope flickered inside him. But when he asked softly for a little water, her smile vanished into ridicule. She mocked him into her phone and walked away cackling. Another passerby sat beside him, snapped a selfie, and captioned it online with "helping the needy is a vibe." She left without offering even a sip of water. Ethan's faith dwindled. Perhaps Clara was wrong. Perhaps kindness was extinct. But fate had other plans. On the fifth evening, as heavy rain hammered the city and thunder cracked overhead, Ethan huddled under a broken shed, shivering. Then he saw her. A young woman dashed through the storm with a flimsy umbrella and a nylon bag. Drenched in a simple lilac blouse and rubber slippers, she stopped when her eyes caught his trembling form. Instead of disgust, her expression softened with concern. "You're getting soaked," she said gently. And with those few words, Ethan's world shifted. The rain battered the city mercilessly, as though the heavens themselves were weary of its cruelty. Ethan sat crouched beneath a splintered wooden awning, water dripping steadily from his ragged hood. His body trembled, his spirit dimmed. He had all but surrendered to despair when the rhythm of hurried footsteps cut through the storm. She appeared suddenly, slender, soaked through, clutching a flimsy umbrella that struggled against the wind. Her blouse clung damply to her frame, her trousers plastered against her legs, and rubber slippers slapped against the pavement. Her scarf nearly slipped from her head as she fought the rain. Then she noticed him. For a fleeting moment, Ethan tensed, expecting another cruel laugh, another dismissive glance. But instead, her brows knitted, not in disgust, but in concern. "You'll fall ill sitting here," she said, approaching. Ethan's voice faltered. I'm fine." Ignoring him, she rummaged in her nylon bag, pulled out a small container, and knelt in the rain. "Hey," she said softly. "Rice and beans. I cooked it for myself, but you look like you need it more." Ethan stared at her, stunned. His hands shook as he accepted the warm food. She smiled gently and, without hesitation, removed the wrapper from her shoulders and draped it over his trembling body. "This one's dry. Keep warm. Please." The kindness overwhelmed him. His throat tightened. "Thank you," he whispered, voice breaking. "I'm Maya," she said, her tone calm and matter-of-fact. "I teach at a nursery down the road. I sew in the evenings, too." Ethan swallowed, struggling to steady his voice. "I'm Ethan. Just trying to survive." Maya didn't pry, didn't sneer, didn't look at him as a project or charity case. She simply nodded. "Life is hard these days." She pointed toward a narrow shop nearby. "Come. Wait out the rain there. I'll be working anyway." Ethan followed, heart pounding in disbelief. The shop was modest, barely more than a wooden room with faded curtains, mismatched chairs, and scraps of fabric hanging from nails. A small sewing machine hummed softly on the table. Maya lit a kettle and handed him a steaming cup of tea. "Drink," she urged. "It'll warm you." He cradled it with both hands, the steam fogging his eyes. It was the kindest thing anyone had offered him in weeks. That night, as rain drummed against the tin roof, Maya returned to her sewing. Ethan sat quietly nearby, watching her work. She was a picture of resilience, teaching children by day, stitching clothes by night, her hands steady, her eyes focused, her spirit unshaken. No complaints. No bitterness. Just purpose. In the following days, a rhythm blossomed. Each morning, Ethan swept the tiny shop, organized fabrics, and helped carry deliveries. Each evening, Maya returned from teaching, her face dusty but glowing, her laughter filling the humble room. He began helping her with cutting, folding, even delivering clothes to customers. It was no longer gratitude driving him. It was admiration, a longing to be part of her world. One evening, as they sat repairing a stubborn zipper, Ethan chuckled. "You know," he said, testing her reaction, "I'm actually a billionaire." Maya didn't even look up. "Well, rich or poor, a kind man is still a treasure." He stared at her, stunned. No disbelief. No greed. No curiosity. Just a gentle smile and continued work. That night, Ethan pulled out the folded check he had carried since the beginning of his experiment. Quietly, he placed it on the table. Maya raised her brows, picked it up, read the figure, 5 million, and laughed softly. "You're funny. Practicing to be a comedian." She slid it back toward him without a second glance. Ethan's chest tightened. She was untouched by wealth, unmoved by its lure. She kept folding fabric as though the paper meant nothing. And for the first time, he believed she might be real. Days passed, and the bond between them grew. They shared roasted yams dipped in oil under the soft night breeze. They spoke of life, of family, of dreams. One evening, Maya admitted with a shy smile, "My mother turns 50 this weekend. Big celebration. The relatives will be there asking questions about marriage, about why I'm alone." She hesitated. "Would you come with me? Just pretend to be my fiancé." Ethan blinked, stunned. "Me?" "Yes," she whispered quickly. "I'd rather go with someone I trust than lie again. I just need someone by my side." Ethan studied her face. She wasn't ashamed of him, his tattered clothes, his dusty slippers. She wanted him there. His lips curved into a quiet smile. "I'd be honored." And so, the man the world had forgotten was about to walk into a family celebration not as a billionaire, not as a beggar, but as someone chosen, trusted, for who he truly was. The following Saturday, Ethan prepared himself with unusual care. He trimmed his beard, buttoned a plain shirt, and pulled on simple dark trousers. He no longer looked like a homeless drifter, yet he avoided anything that might hint at extravagance. Respectful, humble, that was enough. Maya met him at the bus station, her smile nervous but trusting. Together, they traveled to her hometown, the hum of anticipation mingling with the rattling of the old vehicle. The compound buzzed with life when they arrived. Music blared from speakers, children raced between plastic chairs, and enormous pots of jollof rice steamed on open fires. Laughter and chatter filled the air. Maya squeezed Ethan's hand, then led him toward the heart of the celebration. They had barely crossed the threshold when a tall woman in a glittering green dress swept into their path. Gold chains clinked at her neck, her heels tapping with authority. This was Selena, Maya's elder sister. She eyed Ethan from head to toe and wrinkled her nose. "This is him?" she asked sharply. Maya smiled with calm grace. "Yes, Selena. Meet Ethan." Selena folded her arms, unimpressed. "You couldn't find someone more polished? At least someone who doesn't look like he rides buses for a living." Ethan bowed his head slightly. "Nice to meet you." Inside the compound, the judgment only grew. Aunties whispered about his shoes, cousins exchanged mocking glances, and uncles eyed him suspiciously. Ethan sat quietly, absorbing the ridicule without protest. He wasn't here to prove his worth to them. He was here for Maya. Dinner brought an even greater storm, not of weather, but of the past. A tall man entered, his presence commanding, his shirt emblazoned with a luxury brand. His name was Victor, Maya's former lover. He moved with arrogant ease, greeting relatives like a returning prince, embracing Maya with a hug that lingered too long. Victor's eyes flicked to Ethan, and a smirk curved across his lips. "So this is your new man? Looks like you traded your SUV for a bicycle." Laughter rippled across the table. Maya leaned forward, her voice steady. "I'd choose Ethan over you 100 times. He listens. He respects me. He doesn't cheat and blame it on stress." Victor's grin faltered, but Maya's words silenced him more effectively than any shout. Then her mother spoke, her tone sharp. "Ethan, what do you do?" He answered softly, "Small jobs. Here and there." Her face tightened. "No land, no car. How will you care for my daughter?" "Mom," Maya interjected firmly. "I'm happy. Isn't that what matters?" But her mother's eyes burned with suspicion. "Are you manipulating her? Hiding behind sweet words?" Ethan lowered his gaze, folded his napkin, and remained silent. The truth was forming inside him, but it wasn't ready to surface, not yet. That night, after the guests had gone to bed, Ethan stepped outside and made a single call. His voice was calm but resolute. "Clara, deliver it tomorrow." Morning broke with golden sunlight spilling across the compound. Children chased each other between chairs, while women reheated leftovers in steaming pots. Then the rumble of engines shattered the calm. Heads turned. 3 black SUVs rolled into the compound, gleaming, spotless. Behind them came 2 sleek sedans. Drivers in crisp uniforms stepped out, their movements precise. One carried a velvet box and a red folder. "Who is the mother of Miss Maya?" the lead driver asked. Puzzled, her mother stepped forward. He handed her the box. "Your daughter's fiancé requested this be delivered today." She opened it slowly. Inside lay a brand new car key, its glossy emblem gleaming. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Before anyone could process it, Victor's voice rose, smug and triumphant. "Well, what can I say?" he boomed. "I had to do something special for the woman who raised the love of my life." Whispers rippled. "You bought the car?" someone asked. Victor tapped his chest with pride. supervisor at Orion Group. Life has changed. Applause broke out. Uncles nodded. Aunties murmured, now that's a real man. Selena practically glowed, clinging to Victor's arm. Through it all, Ethan stood quietly at Maya's side, offering no correction, no challenge. He remembered Clara's advice: watch, wait, observe. This wasn't about pride. It was about truth revealed at the right time. A few days later, Maya invited Ethan to a housewarming party for her old university friend, Juliet. The apartment glittered with polished tiles, glass tables, and artificial elegance. Guests reeked of perfume and spoke in voices sharpened by pride. Maya wore a simple gown, her dignity radiant in its humility. Ethan remained understated, blending into the background. The whispers started quickly. Is that Maya? Still dressing like a teacher's assistant, one sneered. She was top of the class, but clearly not top of the bank account. Juliet greeted them with a plastic smile. Maya, long time. And this is Ethan, Maya said proudly, slipping her hand into his. Juliet arched a brow. And what do you do, Ethan? He smiled lightly. Just finding my way. Snickers rose behind him. Looks like he just came from fixing a generator, one man said. Another added, didn't I see him begging directions at the bus stop last week? Juliet's smile vanished. Maya, I think he should leave. My neighbors are watching. Maya didn't flinch. Standing tall, her voice rang clear. You may have shiny floors and bright lights, but if this is what you call class, I don't want it. Don't judge people by their clothes. You don't know their story. She grabbed Ethan's hand. Let's go. They turned toward the gate, but froze. Engines roared. The estate gates opened. The same convoy of SUVs and sedans swept in, their presence silencing the crowd. The doors opened, and out stepped Clara, elegant and composed. Sir, she said to Ethan with a bow. Everything is in place. Gasps rippled through the room. Phones shot into the air. Murmurs spread like fire. Wait, isn't that him from the news? Ethan released Maya's trembling hand, stepped forward, and pulled a file from his pocket. His voice was steady, clear. My name is Ethan Cole. Silence fell. I am the CEO of Cole Enterprises, and the son of Edward and Eleanor Cole. Gasps. Glasses slipped from hands. Juliet stumbled backward. Victor froze. Ethan turned back to Maya, his eyes soft. I came to you with nothing. No name. No wealth. Just empty hands and a tired heart. You gave me food when you had little. You gave me shelter when I looked like I had nowhere to go. You gave me kindness when the world only gave me judgment. He knelt, opened a velvet box, and revealed a glittering diamond ring. Maya, you are a rare gem. Will you marry me? Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, yes. Yes, Ethan. Applause erupted, drowning the stunned silence. For once, the world saw not a billionaire or a beggar, but a man and woman who had found something real. The revelation at Juliet's party spread like wildfire. Within hours, social media exploded with headlines. The beggar who was a billionaire, Ethan Cole's secret love experiment, teacher seamstress engaged to CEO. Some praised him for choosing humility, others mocked the deception. But Ethan didn't care about public perception. He cared only about Maya. 2 days later, Ethan stood before a sea of cameras. Clad in a simple navy suit, Clara at his side, he addressed the press. This isn't about mergers or profits, he said calmly. It's about a woman who gave me kindness when I had nothing. Her name is Maya Lopez, and she is my fiancée. Journalists scrambled, tweets flew, and the world debated. In Maya's village, her mother sat frozen, phone in hand, her daughter's face plastered across news channels. Selena wept quietly, guilt gnawing at her chest. And Victor, once smug, turned pale as he realized the truth. The man he mocked was not just wealthy, but his own superior, the CEO of the company he worked for. Ethan didn't stop there. He whisked Maya away to a secluded house surrounded by hedges and blooming vines. This is yours, he told her, pressing keys into her hand. He showed her a gleaming car, then handed her an envelope with a check for $1 million. Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she pushed it back. I didn't help you for this. I helped because it was right. Clara, watching quietly, whispered, I told you so. But not everyone celebrated. Ethan's parents returned from abroad to a storm of headlines. That evening, in the grand parlor of the Cole mansion, his mother's voice was cold. To that nobody. She's a teacher, a seamstress. She'll humiliate us on the world stage. Ethan's father remained silent, but his mother pressed on. You need someone like Tenny, the Senate president's daughter. That marriage would secure government contracts worth billions. Ethan's jaw tightened. I don't want a queen for business. I want a queen for life. Then here's your choice, she said, sliding a folder across the table. Marry Tenny, or lose everything, your board seat, your inheritance, your shares. The room fell silent, but Ethan did not waver. I have other assets. I'll start again. I choose love. Then he walked out, leaving the empire behind. That night, he told Maya what had happened. Her eyes shimmered with anguish. You gave it all up for me. I didn't lose anything, he whispered. I gained everything I ever wanted. But doubt gnawed at Maya. The headlines, the scrutiny, the icy disapproval of his mother, all weighed on her heart. That night, while Ethan slept, she slipped away. On the table, she left a note. I love you, but I cannot be the reason you lose your world. Forgive me. When Ethan woke to find her gone, his chest hollowed. Days turned into fog. He searched every corner of the city, but Maya had vanished. His empire meant nothing without her. Weeks later, at a glittering gala in Cole Tower, Ethan stunned guests by refusing the carefully arranged engagement to Tenny. Standing before senators and CEOs, he declared, I don't want a queen of politics. I want the queen of my heart. Love isn't a contract, it's a covenant. Then he set the microphone down and walked away, choosing silence over spectacle. Far from the city's lights, Maya sat in a modest clinic, staring at a pregnancy test with trembling hands. 2 pink lines. She whispered to her unborn child, You're not alone. Mommy's here. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she prayed Ethan would be all right. Fate intervened through Ethan's mother. Attending a charity event in a rural district, she spotted Maya helping women at the clinic, her hands gentle, her frame thin but strong. And then she saw it, Maya's protective hand on her growing belly. Ethan's mother froze. This wasn't a social climber. This was a woman who carried dignity, compassion, and her grandchild. That night, she confessed to her husband. I was wrong. She has something money cannot buy. She's the right one. Clara soon sent Ethan a message. I found her. Without hesitation, he drove through the night, heart pounding. At the clinic, he spotted Maya seated on a bench, hand resting over her stomach, eyes closed. When she looked up, their gazes locked, and time seemed to stop. She whispered, I didn't want to disturb your life. I just wanted to raise this child in peace. Ethan crossed the room, knelt before her, and gently placed his hands on her belly. You're carrying our child. You've given me everything. He looked up, eyes brimming. I thought I lost it all, but I just found everything. Then he rose, pulling her into his arms. He would never let go again. 2 days later, Ethan and Maya walked into the Cole mansion. This time, they weren't met with icy glares but open arms. Ethan's father removed his cap and said softly, I owe you an apology. You gave our son peace when we could not. Thank you. His mother's eyes were wet with regret. I judged you. But I see now, you are the woman my son was meant to love. The reconciliation rippled outward. Maya's family called one by one, their apologies heartfelt. Selena wept openly, telling her sister, I misjudged him. I'm so proud of you. News of their story swept the globe. From beggar to bride, CEO chooses heart over heritage, love wins in the Cole empire. Investors marveled at Ethan's integrity, and Cole Enterprises doubled in value, not because of money, but because of trust. Maya, once dismissed, became a symbol of authenticity. Young women looked to her as proof that kindness still mattered. Months later, under a glass canopy in the Cole Estate Gardens, their wedding unfolded. Dignitaries, celebrities, and family filled the air with applause, but the true focus was the couple. Maya walked down the aisle in a simple silk gown, carrying lilies, the same flowers she once placed beside her sewing machine. Ethan waited at the altar, his eyes misted with love. When they exchanged vows, Ethan's voice broke. When I met you, I had nothing. You gave me food when I was hungry, shelter when I had none, kindness when the world gave me judgment. I stand here today not because I am rich, but because your love made me whole. Maya's vows were quiet but firm. When the world doubted us, you chose me. I promise to choose you, always, in storm or sunshine, in loss or gain. You are my home. The priest smiled, voice trembling. You may now kiss your bride. Ethan cupped her face and kissed her, slow and reverent. Doves soared into the sky, applause thundered, and tears streamed down the faces of both families. That night, beneath twinkling lights, they danced together, whispering through laughter. Maya murmured, "I still have the wrapper I gave you." Ethan smiled, "And I still have the check you returned." They laughed softly, swaying in each other's arms, not as billionaire and teacher, not as CEO and seamstress, but simply as two souls who had risked everything and found everything. For Ethan and Maya, love was no longer a question. It was the answer.